Several weeks after my mother died, I went to see a therapist. I wasn't sad, my heart just felt vacant of any emotion at all, and that seemed ominous to me, like somehow her hardness and indifference had transferred to me upon her death. After several sessions and even an afternoon taking a psych test, the therapist pronounced me fine. "Why would you cry over someone who caused you so much pain?" she asked. "But she was my mother. People should cry when they lose their mother, right?" The therapist let me answer my own question, and after a while the light of truth started flowing into the spaces that were vacant. "You don't talk about your dad much," she said. "Well, as I've told you, he's not really my dad." I only have two pictures of Norman, one of when he was a young man in the Navy, probably about a decade before he met my mother, and the other is a benign, friendly-looking old man. These are not the chapters of the man I knew. I knew the middle version, the one that was gruff, distant, and hard-working. I wasn't a daughter to Norman, but more like a guest in his home. Although I was told that he was my father, although I was born during their marriage, the connection that he had with my sisters was not there for me. We were separate, not quite strangers, but not connected in any real way either. When I think of Norman, a large wall comes to mind, mostly blank but dotted with a few exclamatory memories. He called me names when I was small, often with racial connotations about the size of my lips or the olive tone of my skin, which I wouldn't understand until I was much older. Once I screamed when there was a rattlesnake in the yard, and like a hero, he killed it with a shovel and threw it in the trash bin. I was grateful for that. I was also scared of that trash bin for a long time. Once I walked in front of his chair when he was watching the evening news, and he stood up and slapped me in the face. He hated when people walked in front of his television set, or changed the channel, or watched Star Trek when he was getting home from work. He once, inexplicably and without fanfare, gave me his old sports car, a pretty green Datsun 2000. It broke down constantly, but I cherished it. Whenever MJ wanted to redecorate, he willingly played along, even through her worst phases, like a glossy orange kitchen with silver foil wallpaper or veined mirror tiles on the bathroom ceiling with pink shag carpeting. When MJ went back east for a visit, Norman spent 2 weeks taming a steep rocky hill in our backyard as a gift for his wife. He built retaining walls and planted several dozen rose bushes. We were all excited to see her reaction. "That's not at all what I wanted. You should have asked," she said. In that awful, defeating moment, I felt empathy for Norman, but he could also be cruel. One Saturday morning, I asked for a quarter to go to the matinee with a friend, but he told me I had to earn it by washing the car. It wasn't good enough the first, second, or fourth time I cleaned it inside and out, and it was well past supper time by the time he grudgingly parted with the coin. He liked sitcoms, news, and beer. During my childhood, the first sound I heard in the morning was a radio, and the last sound was the nightly news. He often said, "No one raised you, you raised yourself." And he started saying that when I was still in grade school. I was never sure what he meant, although I think I know now. When I was 15, he got drunk at my sister's wedding and made a scene while I was dancing with a groomsman, whose hand he thought was too close to my butt. It was the closest he'd ever come to fatherly concern, and it was embarrassing. He grew up an Iowa farm boy. His father died young. His mother was a serial bride after that. He somehow managed to join the Navy while still in his teens. He went along with my mother's story that they'd met at a boardwalk when she was 17 and he was 28, and within 24 hours they'd driven to Maryland and gotten married, although occasionally he'd say it wasn't true and shake his head. None of us would ever know what the truth was. These are a few grains of memory, and there's only a handful I've left untold. As I said, he was, for me, a mostly blank wall. When I got older, we weren't estranged so much. We were just gone from each other. Estrangement involves some depth of feeling. Gone is just an unpainful absence, or maybe an apathy that sets in when there aren't enough connective memories to feel familiar or like family. When my daughter was growing up, I was acutely aware of both her individuality and the parts of myself that she inherited. Liz shares my determination, curiosity, and sense of humor. We care about big issues like systemic racism and social injustice. We're both introverts who manage to do okay in social situations. We have similar tastes in food and furniture. Neither of us is a fan of leftovers. We both think most meetings could be an email. I see this kind of connectivity even more when I watch my granddaughter Zoe play with Liz. Zoe looks like her dad and shares his smile, but so much of her personality, including her sense of fun, her love of animals, and even the kinds of toys she gravitates towards, comes from her mom. In 1981, when my first child was born, I remember feeling an overwhelming amount of love. Many parents have said it, but it's true. I never knew love could be so big, so all encompassing. I remember wondering then how my life might have been different had someone felt that way about me when I was born, but I didn't dwell there. Instead, I thought again of my father. Was he like me? Did he like books and writing and dogs? Was he a curious person? Did he love Motown music, good coffee, and being anywhere near a body of water with a campfire? Was he interested in social issues? Did he have other children? Was he smart? Was he kind? Was he good? Did he and my mother have a relationship? Was it a one night stand or something else? Did he know about me? As a child, whatever connections I had were frail and tenuous. I was constantly searching for some part of myself in the people around me, but I usually came up empty. I might as well have been a visitor from another country, maybe even a galaxy. There was a family life with two parents and four children, but I was not a part of the family. After Rod McEwen left his mother's home to drift from job to job, city to city, long before he became a famous poet, he used to search phone books for his father's name. He knew next to nothing about the man. His mother had given him the name Mac, but didn't know how to spell his last name. And there's something like 70 possible spellings of McEwen. When Rod got wealthy, he hired a detective and finally got an answer that satisfied him. A man that had been dead for 2 years by the name of Rodney Marion McEwen. The poet would never get to meet the father he'd spent years searching for. Would I? I put these thoughts back into their familiar corner as I promised my daughter a better life. If you love somebody, tell them, McEwen once wrote. Love is a better roadmap for trucking through the years than Rand McNally ever made. And my heart, new to this love, new to the abundance of love, vowed to travel through my life that way as much as I possibly could.